Hi, it's Jared from Strongroots Farm. Today I've been asked to do a video on our mobile 4 seasons layer chicken coop. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go all the way through this today. To give you some quick specs, this thing is 14'9" by 24 foot long. Now in this video, I will go over what I like and dislike. So I designed, I fabbed and welded and built this whole thing myself. And there's some things I would change. And so today I'll show you all of those. It does not matter what size chicken coop you build. If you build it in this style of a structure, it can be a 4 seasons chicken coop for you. So today I'll give you some design ideas when you're building your chicken coop or designing your chicken coop that you can use, and it will transfer to smaller or larger depending on your size of your farm or your homestead. I'll also go over the differences between a mobile coop, perhaps with netting around it, versus a chicken tractor, and why we chose to go this route versus the other style. That is all coming up today, including the price, so stick around. Well, welcome back. Appreciate everybody watching. Like and subscribe if you like our channel here. It really does help our channel. This video was requested by one of my viewers, so we're going to go through this today. I will tell you, this is not the perfect setup for a standard small farm or homestead. This is a very big chicken coop, and we built it big for a purpose, to minimize our workload. So we do not have to move this every day throughout the season when we're rotationally grazing cattle. You know the size, and as I looked into buying a chicken coop, buying a chicken tractor to save myself time, a tractor this size, made out of metal, that will last a long time, will come to you delivered in a kit, and it's somewhere between $15,000 and $20,000. They are ridiculously high. I do not know how you could make enough money with eggs to pay for a chicken coop like that, unless you were gonna average out that cost over like a 20-year period. But we built this chicken coop, and so I will give you the cost. It was $2,000. Now, there's a much more material in here. There were probably every bit of 200 hours to build this thing. Most of this is scrap. So I had some scrap metal for the roof. I bought a little bit to finish it. I had a bunch of scrap wood laying around from big skids. I bought a little bit of wood to meet what we needed. I bought some spray foam to insulate it, making it 4 seasons here in Ohio. And then a lot of this steel and other things on here was scrap from a manufacturing facility. I did purchase some hog panels for the heavy duty wire, and my purpose for that was to keep bigger prey like coyotes and hopefully raccoons out, but it stabilized the wall. So I did buy the hog panels, and then I bought a large roll of hardware cloth. So this is 1/4-inch hardware cloth all the way around it. Nothing can get in, and we have not lost one chicken so far to a major predator that was not our fault, where we left the door open or something like that. The back end of this chicken coop is about 4 inches off the ground. So as we pull it forward, it doesn't drag and clog up with mud and shavings or whatever would be back here. And so we have this heavy duty rubber mat. You can see that in the mud, we had a piece rip off. So I threw some C-channel down there to prevent anything from going under. But this is the back of it. You can see a rollaway nest boxes that I'll talk about. I'm not real happy with those, but we planned to be able to get all the eggs without going inside. So I have one on the front, which is technically in the outside part of this coop, and then one back here that is in the internal. That'll make sense in a second. The major structural components of this coop is made from factory shelving. So these big factory high-rise 24-foot tall shelves, these were damaged by somebody running into them with a forklift or something. And so OSHA was making them get rid of some of them and replace some of them due to age. We took it, laid it on its side, cut them apart, and made this structure out of it. A little over a year ago, I made a full video of this when it was brand new, went through some of the things. And so I'll put that down in the description if you want to go back and see what we've adapted over time, but that'll be there. But one thing is, we had this PVC pipe with all these waters, all these nipple waterers spread out, and it ran from a 55-gallon drum here. That busted, whether it got hit with something, it would crack. I fixed it 2 or 3 times. It was a good idea, just kind of annoying. So we ended up actually putting the nipples right into the barrel, and you don't need as many nipples as I kind of thought. I had 8 for 60 birds. I think that's a little overkill. 1 nipple water, if they have water all the time for 10 to 12, is probably enough. You see, we have 2 feeders in here. We have this, you know, McGinnis jerry rig one here that I made out of a piece of 8-inch PVC. Made a little box, and they are pulling a little more out than I would like. The hole at the bottom originally wasn't letting enough out, and then I guess I went a little overboard as I cut a bigger hole. And then we have 2 of the bucket style feeders with the screw in feeder knobs that I bought off Amazon. One of these, shut up! One of these has oyster shell in it just all the time. Now, when we have feed ground for us at a local mill, we have some non-GMO feed that we get. It has a little bit of oyster shell in it, but I have a separate bucket just for oyster shell if they ever want it. And then I have an organic pellet in the back one. I don't know why I chose 2 different styles of feed. I kind of was doing a test on which one they would like better. The pellets are much nicer for feeders. They roll, they come through versus a ground feed like we have in this one. So I was trying to go to pellets, but we gave them both. It's a good mineral mix, so they get a little bit of different stuff to choosing on what they need. Now, my favorite part of this whole design is that I'm 6'4" and I can stand up pretty much everywhere in this coop. That was important to us, which is why I kind of prefer a Soskovich style of a chicken tractor over a Salatin. There are other reasons. I probably ought to do a video on that, but we do have a flat roofed coop for our meat birds, a Salatin style tractor. It works all right. But this is really the design that allows you to be 4 seasons. So this part of the coop is up. It's actually 30 inches off the ground. And then they have about 6 feet, you know, maybe 5.5 feet in here, height-wise. And this is double walled and insulated. So it's 2x4s with plywood on the inside and outside, spray foamed in between it, and then it's sealed. So I did not do the roof. And this is definitely one thing I would change. I'll show you here. So in here, the wall is only 1.5 feet back here, and it's double sealed, like I said, but I did not spray foam the ceiling. I started to, and then we put the chickens in here in the summer, and I noticed they were pecking the spray foam. So my plan is to continue to work on this, put the board insulation up against there, and then probably a Luan board, just an 1/8-inch plywood, just to seal them from pecking it, up on the ceiling. Now, we were gonna leave the vent at the top. So we're gonna have about 1 foot of vents just to let air go out, and then air would come in their little walk door here. We have an automatic light sensor door out here. The ramp goes along with it, and I put it up on a leg so that when we move the coop, it doesn't drag. It just stays up off the ground all the time. I really like that design. And I really like everything in here, so we can scrape all these shavings out onto the ground, pull the coop forward, put new shavings in. This is really super easy to clean. We do this about once a month, but most of their manure goes down in this grass, which we need to move it right now. The perches, I used a 2x3. They have this cheap wood at Home Depot and Lowe's now. They've got these new short studs. It's rounded, it's smooth. So I chose to use that. They were cheap versus going out and trying to find limbs, which I like better. I would rather have a 2 to 3 inch diameter limb, more like a tree, something a little more natural for them. But as long as you have enough perch space for them, it really doesn't matter what you use. Don't use metal because it would, you know, radiate coolness. It'll hold the cold temperature in. But I like that. You have to have some perches for them. We only made the perches, I think they're 18 inches off the floor there, just enough to let them sit over their feet. Manure comes down, and you can definitely tell where they sit, which perch they like better because there's more manure under it. So you can see the nest box from the inside. So there's a nest box here. And then on the outside, or we're still inside the coop, but we have another one out here. Let's talk about these nest boxes. So this was a major cost of this coop. I bought 2 of these Best Nest Box 48-inch roll-away boxes. It was probably $650 at the time. These are a couple years old now. I like the boxes and the idea, but I have done all the training. I have tried everything that anybody has ever recommended on YouTube, and I cannot get them to lay in there when we have sawdust or wood chips down in that coop. They would prefer to make a nest in there on the floor or lay in the grass here than lay in these rollaway boxes. So our solution was to take the fake grass out and put straw in there, which we did, and they immediately started laying in the straw versus on the floor or in the wood chips. So we got them laying in the boxes. We thought, okay, what we'll do is we'll just slowly dwindle down the straw and they'll continue to lay in these fancy, expensive rollaway nest boxes. That did not happen. Now, I don't want to beat this company up too bad and be negative towards these if you're thinking about these. These are a great idea, and a lot of people, they work for it. I just don't know what I'm doing wrong. I have tried everything. So if you have a special trick, comment down below and let me know. But I have put birds in there. I have done the straw thing. I have left the eggs, put a piece of tape on an egg and laid it there so that they would know to lay in there. I've done everything I could think of to get the birds to lay in that stupid box. They just won't lay unless there's straw in there, and the straw prevents them from working and letting that egg roll away into the tray like we want. So if I was going to change one thing major about this coop, it would have been saving my money on those. I wouldn't have bought those nest boxes. I wish I could get my money back for those. I would simply go with a cheap and easy milk crate that was cut out like we've used in the past. You can pull it out, clean it out, wash it if you need to if it gets nasty. I would have saved a bunch of money, but I thought it was going to be so much easier for my kids to come and flip that lid open and collect them. It sounded nice. I've seen them work for other people. Cows. Pros and cons. So there are a lot of cons to this, and there are a lot of pros for us. And we had to weigh that between these mobile wagon style coops where you get more birds in them in a smaller coop, a lighter coop, but you have to put up netting and you let them come outside. So as we go through these, let's start with the cons of each method. So the obvious con of this is that it's heavy. I have to have my 40 horsepower tractor to move it. It's big, but that's adaptable to you. You can make this lightly. You can use the plastic roofing versus metal. You don't have to use plywood like I did. You could probably use a Luan board since you're spray foaming in between. You could use board insulation. Not even sure how much that even matters. They do have a light in there that's solar. They do have a heat lamp, which allows us to pull this within 200 feet of any electrical outlet around our buildings here during the winter. And so it keeps them warm, but it's heavy, it's big, it's cumbersome. And the main problem I have with it is that I built it based on my material, and I made this thing 14 foot wide. I thought, well, that's going to be great. Well, now I've had people that wanted to buy it, and honestly, I would sell it, but I can't freaking haul this thing without taking it apart, and it's welded together. This is one solid beast of a coop, and so I can't get it down the road unless you live a mile from me, and we can go without a transport unit from the State Highway Patrol. Another con to a coop like this is that you have a large square footage coop, but very minimal birds, because they're only getting the square footage of grass that's in there versus the other style has the netting, and you can put much more land to it, much more grass, and have a much smaller coop with many more birds. So you're limited on the amount of birds you can put in this. I have ran 60 in here, and it was every other to every third day we needed to move with 60 birds. I would have no problem based on my mathematics of putting over 100 birds in this coop if we wanted that much. That being said, if you had a Salatin style wagon coop that moved along and you used netting, a coop this size, you could get upwards of 1,000 birds in if you roped off with netting. On the flip side, netting is the biggest downfall for me of those other styles coop. I hate netting. It's cumbersome. It gets tangled up. It doesn't last as long. It's not as easy to put up. You have to put it up, take it down, move it, all these things. And you kind of have to wait till the chickens go in at night unless you have multiple sets of nets to move that coop, where you could have 4 or 5 different sets to set up a lane to pull them in, or however you do it, whatever your process would be with netting. Or you would have to wait till night, take it all down, move it, set it back up when the birds are inside the coop. Kind of annoying for me. That's why we went with this route versus the mobile style coop. Other negative thing about a mobile coop with netting is predators. So I have less predator issues with this style of a tractor or a coop versus the mobile coop like a wagon style. Now, there's guard gooses, there's bird dogs, there's all kinds of things you can mitigate for these aerial predators. But I don't have to worry about those things in a tractor like this that's sealed. They're protected at all times. So the other negative for that mobile coop would be there's more predator pressure, more, you know, you'd have to spend more money on some kind of a guard system in that style of a coop, where I don't have that money here. The pros are obviously, we've kind of hinted on that through the cons, but the pros for this is definitely protection. They're sealed. We know they're there. We move them along. We don't have as many birds. That's a negative, but it's there. We just move it along with the cows, and they cover the pasture. We can put this over a garden. We can put them exactly where we want them. If we have a bad spot in the pasture, throw down some hay, put them on top of it. They will spread it out. So much better here for that, as far as putting them where you want them. Now, you could argue that you can do that same thing with netting. Put the netting where you want them, and you can have more chickens. So that's the value in the other style coop, is the more chickens with a smaller square footage, a smaller price tag. And so when you look at that, if you're looking to be big, if you're looking to have 1,000 layers, this is probably not going to work for you. Ultimately, where we are at on our farm today, there's only 12 chickens in there. With what we want to do with eggs, with the way we're going, and I have talked a little bit negatively, I guess, because I've gotten some comments about eggs and the profitability. The problem with me, when we did the costing on a dozen eggs for us, we were about $250, $260 with buying the carton and the labels and all the stuff that went along with it. That's how much we were spending on eggs. If you're selling them for $5 a dozen and you can't keep them on the shelves, yes, they're profitable. We ended up giving as much away, which is fine. We enjoy doing that, but as we did selling them. The other thing about hawking eggs, in my opinion, is I don't like selling dozens of eggs for $1 profit at a time. You know, you sell 12, 30, 50 dozen for $50. It just doesn't seem like the profit is there for me. So we've gone smaller. So if I had to do all over again, I would build a Soskovich style tractor, maybe a little bigger, probably still out of metal, but I could make it lightweight and able to be moved either with 2 people by hand for us, you know, upwards of 20 birds, or the golf cart side by side, something small that the kids could do it without me not having to hook a big tractor to it. And, you know, if you had it small enough on a homestead style size where you can move it by hand, that's where I would go with a layer coop. You can put plastic over it in the winter if you're worried about them getting really cold. So there's a value in that. That's what I would do over. The main pro for me was keeping them secure during the summer, but pulling it up here and hooking it up and using the same structure year round for my chickens. Whereas if I had a wagon, most people take the chickens out of those, their layers out, and put them in a greenhouse style of a building, or even in their greenhouse, and let the chickens live out the winter in there. That's what Salatin does. That's what a lot of other people do. And that's a good method. If you have a greenhouse and you're looking for them to add nutrients, especially something that's heavy nitrogen feeding like tomatoes, corn, stuff like that, in a greenhouse, this would be a great thing. So if I had a greenhouse and that was my system, I might have gone with more of a wagon style of coop. The one thing I didn't talk about yet that you're probably wondering about is, how do I keep water from freezing? And so it's that barrel. And so if you select a barrel, and I really like this kind of a watering system, we only have to fill it like once every 2 weeks now. And so it has this, I got the barrel with the snap-on ring where the whole lid comes off, not just the hole. What that allows us to do is we can take that out of there. It's just ratchet strapped into this corner, and we can clean it easier. So I like that point of having that style of lid. But in the winter, we put one of those floating de-icers in it, and it's plugged into an extension cord there that you can see it. The extension cord goes all the way down my fence. There's about 200 feet of extension cord out here, and we move the coop along through the winter. Not as often as we do in the summer, obviously, but that de-icer stays in there. And since the ice comes to the top, the de-icer keeps it there, and my nipples are at the bottom. That thing never freezes as long as we have electricity to it. So I guess the other negative for this would be is if you don't have a way to power that de-icer, it wouldn't necessarily work for you. Well, there you go. I appreciate the comment and the request for the video. I hope this video helps you and you got some good design ideas. I have built several chicken tractors with this inside the coop, basically, where it's off the ground and they can go under. When it's really windy and rainy, the chickens can go back in there. And so I really like this style of a design. There are many things that can adapt this to your setting. So metal is cheaper than the plastic, at least where I bought this metal. And you can make it much lighter. You can make this much more versatile. You could make it small enough that you could pull this thing right into a greenhouse if you wanted. You can make it so it's light enough that your kids can pull it. If it's small enough, adapt this design to fit your needs. Well, there you have it. Hope it helped. There you go. You saw everything. Leave some questions if you want to know how we do something, why we do something, and I'll definitely get those questions answered. I do have that video coming up where I'm going to go through the cuts of beef, and I was going to make that next, but I ordered some fancy charts so I can have some better charts for the video and hopefully help you a little better with some visual aids. So those will be here a couple of days from Amazon. I'll get those put up. We did get the meat yesterday, so we got about 3,000 pounds of meat that we brought home. Everything's organized in our freezers, and so I'll get to show you those things. That video is coming up, so please check out that video. Please email me, comment, let me know what I can make for you and show you. Appreciate you guys watching. Have a good day and have a Merry Christmas. Shut up! Can't you see I'm making a video here? Stupid cows.